So I think Indian red is a really ugly color, but what if it's one of the best colors in my palette? So I'm going to go over some of these properties of Daniel Smith's Indian red. Let's get it into focus here, which happens also to be in this Daniel Smith Extra Fine Watercolor in this 24 set that is available to you. I'll link that in my shop below and also in the description below. And they'll pop up QR codes and stuff so you can grab it if you see it. So Indian red falls right here on this Daniel Smith 24. And this is, you know, Daniel Smith's palette. If you buy it, sometimes you can find it with an extra palette that's empty so you can fill it. But this comes just like it is right now. And I am going to see what it can do. So first I want to test the pigment itself. And I have it in a tube here. So at one time I thought it was really good. So, but I haven't touched it. So I'm going to go through here and get some Indian red. And first I'm going to test out. Let me put this over here. Let me check my videos here. I'm going to test it straight out of the pan with very little water. So, and I'm just going to, oh, look how opaque it is. It covers up that black mark immediately. It's super opaque. And the pigment number is PR101. So it is super, super opaque. Matter of fact, when I was looking on Daniel Smith's website, the advice of that was to paint it, make a mark, and walk away if you want to use it in its full opacity. So it kind of reminds me of a gouache. But I'm going to do some tests here to see just exactly what it can do. If it will go transparent, let's see. Of course it will. And it is pretty. It's kind of a brick color. So you can get it to a transparent state. It's pretty. I'm going to try some mixing with it though. It suggests using cerulean blue and yellow ochre. I'm not going to do that. I'm going to do some different mixes. I'm going to test it with French ultramarine. Let me get this. First, I'm going to test it with buff titanium. Let me just put this to the side. No, I'll hold it. First, I'm going to test it with buff titanium, which is in this palette. And I'm going to put that over here. You know, I do love my creamy colors. This has a little bit of a yellow tint to it. Just get that woke up a little bit. I didn't pre-spray these, except I have been testing the Indian red. All right. So let's get that, and let's get a touch of Indian red and put with this. Ooh, that's really pretty. It's kind of a peachy terracotta tone. Yeah, look at that. That's really pretty. And the yellow just kind of turns it a little bit more towards orange peachy. All right, so let's test it with French ultramarine. So, first I'm going to add a little bit of French ultramarine into that mixture to see what it does. It really grays it down. Yeah, I kind of violet gray. I've never really used Indian red. That's really pretty. They're really muted and desaturated. Let's put it with a little bit. Let's put Indian red. That's really strong pigment. But it does say it has excellent light fast. So I would say a little goes a long way. It says to mix it with yellow ochre, but I'm not going to do that. I'm going to mix it with this raw sienna light. I'm going to get quite a bit here and see what happens. Oh, now that is a really pretty terracotta color. So I can see where this would be pretty for bricks or pots, like flower pots. Really pretty. Really pretty. And I might even take some straight Indian red and mix it with some straight French ultramarine. Let's get some of that water out of my brush. Let's see what that happens. As far as a purple, I'm going for a purple, like a muted purple. Ooh, that is really pretty. Oh, that's kind of like a navy. So I can get a good dark out of that. Let's put a little bit more Indian red in there. Just a tad. Oh, too much. So let's get some more French ultramarine. That looks a little bit more. Oh, can't seem to get there. Maybe a plum. That'll give me a really nice dark, I believe. It's really muted. And some good shadow colors. So, all right, let's do something else. I got another piece of scrap paper here. I'm going to set this right here. I have another scrap paper, and I'm going to mix that Indian red with this undersea green. Now, green and red, they neutralize and should make a brown. So the undersea green is right by raw sienna light, so that's this color. Can you see? Okay, so let's mix that with the Indian red straight on. Ooh, that's pretty. Ooh, that's like a nice olive color. Nice. Very nice. Let's put a little bit more Indian red in there. See if we can get it to go to brown. And yes, look. Beautiful brown. A little bit more. Still a little on the green side. There. Oh, yeah, that's really pretty. That's like a burnt umber. Okay, so what can we do with that? All right. So let's see what other colors that we can mix with this. I think that's going to give us a nice good range. So if they recommend doing it with cerulean blue chromium, which is right here. So let me clean this off. Get a well cleaned off. I just want to mix that buff titanium in with these other colors to see how it changes. So I'm interested for right here, how would that is a beautiful skin tone. Isn't that gorgeous? I think this would make a beautiful palette. I always wonder why people have Indian red in these pre-made palettes. Or an earth red, PR 101. Now I have a lot of PR 101s and I haven't compared them to each other. So if you want me to do that, leave that in the comments below. And if you like this kind of content, give me a thumbs up because, you know, sometimes it's hard to know what kind of videos to make. I really like that. I like that peach tone. Although I don't do portraits, but, you know, it might make a pretty pot. You could do a flower pot in this color and, you know, on your dark side and shadow side you could use this. There's just all kinds of possibilities. Let me take this buff titanium and mix it with this. Okay, so here we're going to mix this buff titanium. I've got quite a bit on my brush. I'm going to grab just a little bit more and I'm going to mix it in with this aubergine muted purpley plum, and you can kind of see in the palette where that Indian red is breaking apart from that French ultramarine. That tells me that there's going to be granulation if I mix it up. That's pretty, but you know, it's, I don't know, is it ugly? Is it ugly? Let's see. Not really. It's really pretty. I could see that being a shadow. I don't know why I like mixing opaque colors, opaque watercolors. I just love opaque watercolors, and I love earthy muted watercolors. I just think that they're beautiful. Okay, so let's take, what can we take? Let's take, we got a really nice dark indigo here with Indian red and French ultramarine. So let's just try this cerulean blue chromium. I have to cough. Excuse me. So let's just try it and see. So I'm going to get this because it's recommended. and maybe it's a stronger pigment and can stand up to Indian red. But I don't know. I do like that dark that we got there. Let's see if we can get it here. Let's get some Indian red. I like to be able to use all the colors in my palette, but you know, you notice that professional artists, when you take a workshop or watch them on YouTube, they pretty much stick to 4 or 5 colors, and it's usually a yellow ochre and French ultramarine, or I've seen some people use phthalo. Okay, now that took over that cerulean blue. That makes a nice dark. Makes a really nice dark. All right, let's put a little bit more cerulean blue in there. See if we can get it to go more purple. Ooh, yeah. That's pretty. Oh, look at that. A really nice gray. This set contains all kinds of possibilities. So let's mix it with yellow ochre. All right, let me clean off this one. Because that's what Daniel Smith recommends on their website. So maybe you should listen to the professionals. Let me zoom in here, see if I can. I love this one, and that's cerulean blue and Indian red. So that is really beautiful. That's a nice, beautiful dark gray. And this was undersea green, which they recommend that one too. So let's do yellow ochre, which is this one right here. You know, maybe I typically use raw sienna, but maybe yellow ochre is what I need to use. You have options because you got raw sienna light and you have yellow ochre, and then you have this geothite, which is kind of a brown. Okay, let's get some Indian red. I'm just going to get a teeny tiny bit and put in there. Nice. Let's compare it with what we did with raw sienna. It's more of a brown. Maybe I need to put a little bit more yellow ochre in there. I think the raw sienna light give it more of a peachy color. Still like the raw sienna light better. This just flips to kind of a brown. Yeah, I think I like this one a little bit better. It has more of a pink tone to it. Let's do that again. Let's clean this off. Now I'm just doing this for testing. I hate to waste all this paint but I am going to do a little painting at the end with these colors. So let's just hang tight and figure out which colors we want to use. So I'm going to use this raw sienna light again. That's a glowing. That's a glowing yellow. I think it's more glowing than yellow ochre. Okay, so let's get just a tad bit of Indian red, not much. Let's see. Okay, maybe a little bit more. That kind of went brown too. I'm wanting this pink tone. A little bit more. It's hard to say. This kind of reminded me of Potter's Pink. So there's not too awful much granulation there. There seems to be more granulation with the Indian red. So what if I started with Indian red and just maybe add just a little bit more Indian red. Take some pigment off my brush. There you go. I think that's going to dry a little bit lighter. So, and I just toned it with, I just mainly got Indian red with a little bit of raw sienna light. Very, very good. Very good. Okay, let's do that green again, but let's do it with sap green instead of, I really like that one. Man, I shouldn't have, that one was hard to make. Let's get that off of there. I'm not going to edit this video, so we're just going to go with what it gives me. Okay, so I'm going to do, we know that that is undersea green and Indian red. So I'm going to go with Indian red. And this one is, oh, another option would be Pearling green. That's here. Let's try that. I think that's a good, that might make a good dark. Let's see. That's not been wet, so it's going to be a little bit more stubborn to wake up. Okay. Ooh, that's pretty. That's a dark green, which Pearling green is. I just like to get a brown. So let me put a little bit more. And that turns it black. Pretty much black. So let's try it with sap green. I don't think I like that one. So here we go. Let's use sap green. I like the undersea green. It made a nice brown. Well, let's see if I can get a different range of greens with sap. I'm just kind of wanting natural pigments. Okay, now let's use a little bit of Indian red. Just a little. Ooh, that's pretty nice. I'm gonna need a little bit more though. Oh, that turns that a nice green. I think I'm gonna need another piece of paper. Let's just put it on here. Okay, let's go down and we'll add a little bit more Indian red to each until we get to brown. Ooh, that's pretty. Yeah. You can get a range here. That's a little bit more Indian red. These are wearing down fast, but this is a hand-poured palettes. It says color hand-poured watercolor half pan set in a metal box. Nice. All right. This is pretty too. A little bit more olive. Starting to go towards the brown. Can you see the difference? Okay, a little bit more. I'm trying to get to brown. Pretty. Yeah, that's a pretty brown. Still leaning towards green. Okay, let's try a little bit more. And that kind of neutralized that and took that green out of there. Can you see? Started with sap green and just a teeny tiny bit of red, and then I added more red as I went down. So that's a good choice. I think I liked it better than the undersea green. Let's just do undersea green that was right here. I didn't like the perylene at all. Undersea green starts off a little bit darker. It's pretty though. Cannot complain about undersea green. Let's put just a teeny tiny bit of red in. That switches pretty quick. I think I get more of a range with sap. Oh, shoot. Let's put a little bit more. You really have to control it because I'm getting to brown already. Still got green in it. There, it's neutralizing to brown. And this brown, I don't know, it's kind of a raw umber type of brown. I like this one better. I think it's a little bit warmer, and this looks a little bit dirtier. So if it was my druthers, I would start with sap green. And I don't know, man, I like that cerulean blue. Although the French ultramarine is nice as well. You just have so many possibilities. So many possibilities. I think this Indian red is a really good color. So I'm so glad that I've got it in a tube so I can refill this as it goes down. So let me know what you think. Are you an Indian red fan? Or would you just rather stick to regular quinacridone rose or quinacridone red or even alizarin crimson? Because you can mix something like this, but I think this palette is a really good palette to go on. So now let's paint a little botanical on this tiny piece that I cut 2.5 by 3.5 inches on Arches watercolor paper, cold press. So I'm going to paint a little botanical and we'll see what you think with just these colors. So that's my deal on Indian red. I really like it. I think it's a great color and I intend on keeping it in my palette, any future palettes that I may make, which I'm thinking about one now. But here is this Daniel Smith 24. I think so far, I think it's a well thought out palette and I love these mixes that I got. Let me know what you think. These are real earthy tones that you can get from mixing Indian red with various colors in the palette. So, okay, here's some others too. It's very opaque, but can be brought out to be transparent. Do you like it? Let me know in the comments. Talk to you later. Bye.